It's been really nice meeting people in the last couple of days. It's kind of a, I don't know how some people get around celebrities, but for me, being around Leonard Cohen the other day was one of those things. And then being able to give him the banya, the slap in the banya was pretty interesting. So I'd have to say that this has been a peak experience for me, and hopefully it's been the same for everybody here. I'm taking a slightly different tack today, and I'm going to talk about some of the parts around health insurance that probably everyone doesn't like to talk about in their day-to-day life because it's so difficult to get some of the things that we all know are healthy covered. I'll go through and give some context here. My job is I run strategic opportunities at a company called Remedy Partners that I started 2 years ago with my dad and my brother. I will get into that in a minute. But the first thing I want to put into context is that right now in the U.S., we're kind of, this is USS America, and this is the iceberg that we're potentially going to hit. And the problem is what is viewable from the surface isn't as big as the problem is underneath. And just to give you an idea, right now, I think the number's around 5 cents of every dollar goes to Medicare if you're in the U.S. that you make. And it's slated to get to about 7 cents by 2020. And if that happens, we're going to have to be figuring something out. And so what I'm engaged in is a project that aims to lower that from 5 cents to 4 cents, and I'll explain how. Everyone probably, unless you've been in another country like Finland, paying attention to Obamacare. Obamacare has been rolled out. A lot of people have problems with it. What I will say is that despite everyone saying that it's a total disaster, there's actually some incredibly thoughtful beauty inside of Obamacare that if you do read the regulations and you do understand how to wade through policy, there's something very impressive. What is impressive is inside of Obamacare there's an armored car that can't be touched by anyone, and it's called the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation. And it was funded with $10 billion from Obamacare, and that $10 billion is being put towards a bunch of different projects. Some are around Medicare shared savings programs. Some are around pilots that can be tested at different locations. And what the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation did is they released something called the Bundled Payments Program. And the Bundled Payments Program is the greatest Medicare corrective measure hidden inside of Obamacare. And just to give you an idea, this is the guy who runs CMS. CMS in our country is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, and they cover about 2/3 of all healthcare costs in the U.S. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Just going to read this because it makes sense. The Bundled Payment Initiative from the CMMI responds to the overwhelming calls from the hospital and physician communities for a flexible approach to patient care improvement. All around the country, many of the leading healthcare institutions have already implemented these kinds of projects and seen positive results. From a patient perspective, bundled payments make sense. You want your doctors to collaborate more closely with your physical therapist, your pharmacist, and your family caregivers. But that sort of common sense practice is hard to achieve without a payment system that supports coordination over fragmentation and fosters the kinds of relationships we expect our healthcare providers to have. Everyone can probably agree with that in this room, I think. This is the guy who ran the office of the budget for Obama, Peter Orszag. He's now a senior advisor to Citibank. He says, last week the CBO reported that many Medicare pilot projects were designed to reduce costs actually haven't done so. But the CBO suggested that there may be a promise in this bundled payment approach under which insurers pay a single comprehensive fee for treating a particular disease rather than many fees for specific doctor visits and therapies. Goes on. Point is, what does it mean to live in a bundled payments world? Right? And so what I hope you all can do is think about a beginner's mind, which doesn't have any preconceived notions about what the world looks like, and start with a question, which is what I've been on the journey for the last 4 years since we realized bundled payments was coming through. I've been asking the question, what is healthy? Okay, because if you ask what is healthy, you can start reframing a lot of the things that we believe are healthy. And as the payment model shifts, you can start to include things that are healthy. Okay? So like I said, we launched a family startup. It's been wild. We're now at 75 people. We have a contract with CMS. CMS is, as I said, the government. This is Remedy Partners. And then what we do is we work with hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, providers, so orthopedic groups, physicians, skilled nursing facilities, home health care agencies. And my job was to go out and recruit over the last 2 years. And so I think I did a good job because we now have a 50-state program. And we have home health, skilled nursing, physician groups, hospitals in every state. And so we're getting Medicare data from CMS to help them. If anyone saw the movie Moneyball, it's a little bit like that. We've basically taken all the Medicare data, figured out the way that people are getting paid, and then reintroducing a new style of payment based on what actually works and what doesn't work. And so this is our 50-state program. And what I want to talk about is there are 3 things that we believe here at Remedy. One is where there's chaos, there is opportunity. And there is certainly chaos in the healthcare market right now. When the rules change, the game changes. Okay? And 3, designing a world of health and prevention is important. And assuming the healthcare industry continues to evolve towards this status quo, we're essentially investing in ideas, companies, opportunities, and people that fit our definition, expression, notion of healthy in that new world. Okay? So my job, that's what I do, strategic opportunities now. So one of my favorite David Byrne quotes, how did you get here? So I'm going to give you a quick little history. This is me at my first birthday. And this is my mom and my dad. My dad had just gotten off the carnival, and my mom was a naturopath. Shortly after this, my dad's best friend broke his neck, and he became an orderly in a hospital, taking care of him. From that, he decided he had a better version of what the healthcare world would look like, and he began a healthcare company, a nonprofit, taking care of people with spinal cord injuries. Actually from Minnesota. So both my mom and dad are Minnesota native. My mom's actually from Iowa, but a lot of the Minnesotans here can probably understand that. We went to lakes. We had a Finnish sauna. Jarmo, I wanted to throw this here for you. And then we would jump into the water, and it was a nice Finnish sauna. It wasn't a smoke sauna, but it was nice enough. One of the things my dad taught me was you got to stand up for what you believe in. Okay? And so he started a business in the 1990s, or in the 1980s, called Oxford Health Plans. And Oxford Health Plans was an interesting business because it was a very innovative insurance company. And he did it after recognizing what was working and what wasn't working in his markets. And so as he began this journey into creating an insurance company, you got to remember that insurance in the U.S. pays for everything. You know, everyone hates insurance companies for a reason. When there's a nice one that's created, a lot of people join on and they want to join quickly. And so this became the fastest growing company in the country for 3 years. And it ended up as a Fortune 200 company by the end. The interesting part about that is that, and he came up with ideas like Freedom Plan. Who doesn't want to be a part of a Freedom Plan when it does interesting things? The interesting thing that I will cover here too, and just as a point of clarification, does anyone accept insurance in the room at their locations, like at the hammams or the spas or kabuki? Okay, so that's the private pay market. Okay, so what I want to prove here is that the private pay market is actually very small compared to the commercial insurance and Medicare market. And getting something covered by the commercial insurance and Medicare market is quite difficult. Here's the story of how to get something covered by insurance from the outside. One, the data has to develop. We've talked about data multiple times. We're all data people at Remedy. If certain populations engage in a behavior, they end up with lower blood pressure. If you can take someone off a beta blocker with a therapeutic treatment, then this is a strong case. We need to know what that strong case is. We need to know what data is behind it. And the data people on the health insurance side are the best at pushing back because they're really savvy. And they've heard all the hucksters out there selling their wares with some sort of tie-in to the company that they own. The other thing to know is that you should expect 5 to 10 years of ground warfare to get the carriers on board. So that's Aetna, United, other things like that. And other times you need outcome studies, biology, something like serotonin levels are increased or reports sleeping better. Those are helpful. But as Mikhail was talking about yesterday, you need stats and you need something that people can prove. And that is often published in something like JAMA, which is the Journal of American Medical Associations. So the question that I was thinking about the other day is how can you use leverage to push through what you believe is healthy? Does anyone do acupuncture, or has anyone gone to an acupuncturist or massage or colon hydrotherapy or something like that?
Sure.
Okay, seems like everybody. I'm going to tell you a quick story. One of the things that happened in 1997 is my mom was a naturopath. And so my dad was, obviously most men are controlled by their wives anyways. But my dad definitely loved getting influenced by my mom. And my mom came up with a concept which was the Complementary and Alternative Medicine Company. And so Oxford in 1997 became the first company in the country to cover alternative medicine. Yay for my mom. What was interesting about this is that he kind of just pushed it through, because what worked to get Oxford alternative medicine covered? Three quotes that I got from the other night. He just said, we are going to do this. He said, one of the things I had to do is we had to say, we're going to do this because we believe it's the right thing to do. Okay, when you're managing 1.5 million lives in New York City, you can do that. 2, we're going to create an alternative medicine rider. People could choose to buy it, but it costs extra. A rider is something that would be on top of your insurance carrier. So if you wanted to go and get a sweat rider, you could go to the Banya, you could go to Kabuki, you could go to all these places, and an insurance company, a forward-thinking one, would cover it properly. You want to go do a Native American sweat lodge? Let's do it. Right?
Cool.
And the third thing they wanted to do is we want to attract people who take care of themselves. And the fourth thing is people want to be associated with a company that is a forward-thinking model. Okay? The stats didn't come out about this, but I know the stats. The most successful program ever in the history of Oxford Health Plans was the alternative medicine program. More people joined Oxford as a result of that than anything else. One of the guys who was actually the CEO of Priceline now was one of the lieutenants that worked for my dad. And what happened was he realized, he said at one point, he said the reason Oxford became as big as it did is because alternative medicine. Unfortunately, due to some technical issues around a convergent, they were trying to implement a large computer system. Oxford bit the dust in 1998 in terms of my dad's involvement, because they had a very public loss of accounting because they were missing 5% of their claims on new stuff. So he got ousted by the new people that came in and had to put $1 billion into the company. So he was out in 1998, and he got to think about what he was going to do next. Oxford's still around. It got acquired by United. But it's not the innovative company that it once was. Just like you lose the Sweat Summit, you lose Mickle to the Sweat Summit. What's the Sweat Summit, right? So here are the questions that are inside the mind of an insurance company. Do we care if it's covered, or do we just want more people to do it? Do we care that sweat's covered, or we just want more people to do it? Right? 2, do we need to get covered so people don't have to pay for it out of pocket? Or are they already paying for it? Wouldn't anybody with those diseases be willing to pay for these treatments? So is it medically necessary for the person with fibromyalgia to feel better? No, it's not. It's medically necessary to keep her alive. So these are the issues that you think about when you're a benefit designer. I don't know. Some people wanted to grow up and be something like a pianist, whatever. I grew up wanting to be a benefit designer, which is kind of an interesting thing. When your dinner table is these are these characters debating philosophies, it's kind of nice. So the conclusion I have is health insurance will not likely cover sweat therapy in the near future, unless it is introduced by someone at the helm of an insurance company who just believes. Okay, this is the low point of the conversation. Dun, 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 dun.
And here's somebody who believes.
I got very sick when I was 19 years old with something called Meniere's disease. which is an inner ear disorder that causes you to have vertigo and lose hearing. And nobody could figure it out. I had Bell's palsy for about a year and a half. It's a great way to go through college. And if one of the things that I found through a friend of my dad's was a clinic in Switzerland. And the clinic is called Paracelsus, and I highly suggest everyone write down Paracelsus, because there's a style of medicine that is practiced at Paracelsus that is called biological medicine. And for all the Euros in the room, I love European medicine because of this place, and so you can't do any wrong. One of the great things about European healing is that the cultural paradigm is a communal healing paradigm. So here I am with my dad, he took me over there, and the 15 other patients that were there. I was probably the least sick person in this entire orbit. There were some people with cancer, there were some people with MS, there were people with all these things that you couldn't necessarily figure out. And this place was curing them. And the way they were curing them is they were following the biological medicine philosophy. I'm going to read this again because I think it's important related to sweat therapy. Modern medicine has many triumphs, but its treatments for chronic and degenerative disease are not among them. Reliance on conventional drugs, surgery, and radiation does little to address the causes of the condition, with the result that treatment too often only slows the progression of the disease, sometimes with very little benefit, and too often at a terrible cost and quality for life of the patient. At Paracelsus, we aim to invigorate the body's own life forces, which include its ability to heal and regenerate. We call this practice biological medicine. Biological medicine focuses on the body as a whole instead of just treating symptoms to determine why you are ill. We use the techniques of biological medicine to uncover the true causes of an illness so we can provide a comprehensive wellness solution. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's really good. I think everyone who is a sweater would probably agree with that. The interesting thing about Paracelsus is when I found out about it, I made it my life's mission to bring Paracelsus to the United States. A little bit like someone who reads sweat and wants to create their own banya. So that's what I've been up to. But the interesting thing about Paracelsus is that it's now becoming an idea that is starting to proliferate in the world of bundled payments. When people can find a way to take care of humans in a more preventative way, as opposed to something that is very fee-for-service driven. I put this in there for you. Here's
blood pressure. What? Blood pressure is going up. Blood pressure is going up.
Yeah. Yarmo, in the first 30 seconds of meeting him, I told him I had an infrared sauna, and he said, "Oh, you have an infrared cabin. It's not a sauna."
Oh.
And so Yarmo, at Switzerland, they suggest that we sit in the infrared sauna. So maybe you should talk to them about getting a Finnish sauna.
Change your airplane ticket now. We really need to know this.
But one of the other things that Sean talked about the other day is hyperthermia. Hyperthermia is when you heat your body up to about they do it about 106 degrees, and what it does is it activates your white blood cells, and your white blood cells can go and kill bacteria in a better way than they've ever been able to do before. And you're very monitored because it gets you into hallucinatics. You start to hallucinate, but it works. And so with people with cancer who've gone through the whole gamut in the U.S., this is a really good option for them.
This is a microwave.
What?
It's a microwave.
It's the same system. Sure, it's a microwave. So here's my brother and my friend Gus sitting in the microwave. I'm just showing you that I came back and I told everybody to get an infrared saunas. And just to go back a little further, to set up a point I'm about to make. When I got back from Paracelsus, I thought, okay, I want to bring a Paracelsus clinic to the United States, but how do you do that? Right? And at the time, I was sitting in Boston in 2004, and there were people playing around with the LAMP stack, which was a technology stack that was free, open source. It was what Facebook became built off of, and it became a system that you could really scale cheaply. And so I built a company called Remedy Systems, which was the Swiss Army knife for doctors. And it allowed them to do prescriptions on the phone, it allowed them to do telemedicine on the phone, it allowed them to do a lot of stuff. And we sold various parts of that over the last couple of years, which was great. But one of the things that I learned was our behavior is changing, okay? The average smartphone owner touches their phone 89 times a day. A phone is within arm's reach for 19 hours a day, okay? The rise and growth of technology have taken us into our heads and out of our bodies. I think that was a theme yesterday that people brought up. What's crazy is that this was old data. This is when it was still Remedy Systems. Now it's Remedy Partners. Remedy, it's now 220 times a day that people are touching their phone. So what were they doing in 1975? I don't know. Maybe they were taking a banya. Or they were touching other people. I don't know. I wasn't around for the Summer of Love. You look like you were. So I have a theory. And the theory is healthcare half-pipe. Okay?
Half-pipe.
This is not me. The healthcare half-pipe is a framework for thinking about how an idea can spread. Okay? On one side, you have ideas from other industries, innovators, entrepreneurs, and social activists. First of all, does everyone know how a half-pipe works? Okay, you get on one side and you use the leverage and the momentum that you get down to. You could probably explain this from physics, but you get down and you spin to the other side and boom, you're up, and then you can spin back down and you're on the other side. It's a very effortless project once you know how to do it. Okay, it just looks really hard. So there's the healthcare half-pipe. You've got ideas from other industries, innovators, entrepreneurs, and social activists on one side of the half-pipe. Okay? On the other side, you've got distribution, financing, and stakeholders. You could look at this for anything. It could be about a film, how to get a book released, how to get your ideas heard. One side, you've got the people who are sort of the grassroots. Other side, you've got the distribution, people who can make it happen. In the center, there's bad policy, bureaucracy, and naysayers. Okay? Bad policy really sucks. And in healthcare, there's been bad policy for a long time, and the reason why this is an exciting time to be alive is that the policy has changed. And when the rules change, the game changes. Then there's good policy. Good policy encourages entrepreneurs to drop in and take measured chances. Okay? It's what we saw with San Francisco, the boom in technology, whether you like it or not, is because of Ed Lee making some decisions and making it more favorable for technology companies to be here. Now now we've got what it is. As a personal note, I'm really not a fan of technology anymore, having been in it, but just had to say that. Does anyone remember seeing this photo? Anyone? Does anyone have an idea where this is from? This was the front page of the New York Times. Do anyone remember why? This was. I remember seeing this and cutting it out and putting it on my wall because I was like, this is an incredible way to think about population health management. This is a refugee camp right after the Japanese tsunami. In a refugee camp, they put a bath
Yeah.
so the elders could talk. Where do the elders go in the U.S. to talk about the issues that we need to talk about? I don't know. Is the VFW, is that still a functioning organization? Yeah. But point is, other cultures knew what was going on, knew how to handle stress, knew how to handle population health management. I think we're heading into a crisis. We have access to a lot of information. Everyone does. Everyone has their own opinion. I think that we're probably a year away from a crisis. So to prep for that crisis, I went on a little journey, Mickle style. And I went to the New York Russian baths. I went to the Wii Spa in Los Angeles. I went to Kabuki, didn't get a picture though. I went to a bunch of these places and I realized sweat bathing and sweat therapy is something that doesn't cost that much. And when you compare it to a drug cost, okay, if you're an insurance company, you're thinking about drug costs, your hypertension medication costs $2,000 a month. And you could probably get a massage every day and get access to the banya for $2,000 a month. I don't know, Mikhail, would that work?
A lot less.
A lot less. So there's a few things I want to leave everybody with because I know that we're all thinking about stuff. But one of the things I liked yesterday about, well, first, what do we need to do to advance sweat therapy? All right, here's some action items. The first is Leonard yesterday was talking about recognizing and leveraging the converging macro trends of the moment to make something work. Right? There was a time and a place for wet, and there was a time and a place for bringing sweat therapy out. I think that's now. I think you can follow the structure of successful revolutions. I studied comparative revolutions in college, and one of the things that I learned is that no successful cultural or political revolution happened entirely from the outside. Okay, it usually took a group from the fringe that was picked up and scaled inside by someone who has the control of some mechanism of power that gets what's going on the fringes and then can scale it out. Okay? I think there's thoughts that can happen there. I think there's an organization of legitimate research that needs to happen. It was really nice to hear, where's the Sauna Federation man? Yeah,
Two
there's,
of them.
yeah.
International?
Yeah, the international. There is very deep research that we'd love to have access to.
Right,
Okay.
interesting. The Germans have a lot.
You tie in other cultures. I was on the phone the other day with a friend who used to run the American College of Cardiology. It's a 500,000 physician organization. They're very influential. He's now at the Cardiovascular Research Foundation. What's great about him is he also grew up building the Indian Health Service on the Native American reservations. You know what he's done a lot of? Jeanette, what do you think? He's done a lot of sweats. So,
Can I say one thing?
yeah,
No, finish your
sure. You can say as much as you want. I think it makes sense to establish an American Association of Sweat Therapy, right? So that there can be things that go through it. Research that's published, people that can read and organize around it. Someone had that idea yesterday. I liked it.
Stephen Coleman, yeah, that's your thing.
Prove a model that works for all parties. Okay? Nell, you're going to hear from Nell this afternoon. I met Nell 2 months ago, and we did a financial model for what she's going to show. It works financially. Guess what? Everybody likes that. And then 6 is you got to get some believers, and that's the movement building piece. And I think we go back to throwing parties like Leonard was talking about. So bathing parties in San Francisco. Anyways, I just moved to San Francisco. I took over a 12,000 square foot warehouse in the Mission. There's a lot of cultural change happening there. I plan on turning it into a modern medical clinic like Paracelsus. And on the roof, I'm putting hopefully a well-built finished sauna and a steam shower and some other things that many of you can come visit at some point. But anyways, that's how I'm thinking.
Thank you.